I am Tanisha Batiste, and Drake London, Kyle Pitts Sr., Bijan Robinson, and Tyler Algier all found the end zone Sunday, marking the first time 4 players scored scrimmage touchdowns since week 6. Yep, week 6 of the 2024 season. Winner, chicken dip.
I'm Tori McElhaney, and the Falcons offense showed us exactly who they are and what they want to be. But hey, we got to see that again for it to stick.
I'm Aaron Freeman, and people keep asking me if the Falcons are back, and I'm thinking, yeah, I think they're back.
I'm Jarvis Davis, and I remember every last one of y'all that were talking all that trash about firing everybody. Now y'all quiet. No, don't get quiet.
ATL!
Rise up, A-Town. It's the Falcons Squad. Everything Atlanta Falcons every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the ATL. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Straight from the ATL, the Falcons Squad Show starts now.
Welcome into the Falcons Squad Show, your home for the best Atlanta Falcons football talk. I'm your host, Tanisha Batiste. Alongside me are Locked On Falcons host Aaron Freeman, Locked On analyst Jarvis Davis, and Falcons senior reporter Tori McElhaney. The Squad Show is also part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So the defense was solid in one phase, but kind of leaky in another. We'll discuss. And special teams wasn't special once again. Time to talk about this up and down play of the third phase. And W's in the chat means game ball giveaways. We'll discuss. But first, let's talk about the Falcons being back to 500 and how the offense got them there in a nice 34-27 win over the Washington Commanders Sunday. So the Falcons got the passing game going with Drake London and Bijan Robinson with 100-plus receiving yards and 1 score apiece. So, Tori, since you called that out early, want to ask you, what was the difference, you think, in the Falcons getting that passing game to actually produce points this week?
So I think it goes a little to what Washington was doing defensively, yes, but I also think that Michael Penix was just operating better. I think that he was operating from a place of confidence. I think he was operating very well and wanting to push the ball downfield, finding his open receivers. Like, I ultimately think that the fact that everybody's kind of talking about Drake London today, which I think is warranted. He went from 156 total receiving yards through the first 3 weeks of the season to 110 last night. So that is all well and good. But what Michael Penix was able to do to get him the ball, to push the ball downfield, I mean, he went from being, I believe he was 1 of 19 going into this game in terms of throws beyond 15 air yards. And he was 5 of 8 yesterday. And that just, I just think we were seeing the Michael Penix that we expected to see, the type of player we expected to see, the arm strength, the arm talent. Like, I was just really impressed with Michael Penix's ability to work within the system, find what Washington was able to give up, and take advantage of that. And to honestly have the bounce back performance after a really not great day against Carolina a week ago.
Yeah. And I would agree with you on that one, Tori. And Aaron, the offense, like Tori said, doesn't have itself a day if Michael Penix Jr. doesn't. I mean, he finished with a 75% completion percentage with 307 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. First time that's happened in almost 4 years. So what did you see that made you feel like the Penix we saw to end last season is on his way back?
Yeah, I think Tori touched upon it. You saw him hitting the deeper throws that he was making, which was something that we hadn't really been seeing this year, that we saw on a regular basis last year. So that's a big part of it. You saw him being efficient on some of the underneath throws, more efficient than he has been in previous games, where I think a lot of those underneath throws in previous games were him wanting to go deep and then not having that open receiver deep and then kind of checking the ball down. And I felt like in this Washington game, a lot of the underneath stuff was designed underneath stuff. It was designed to get the ball out of his hands quickly, try to get him into a rhythm and operating a little bit more quick game. Basically, outside of that one 40-yard catch that Drake London had, pretty much most of his receptions were some of those underneath throws designed to, let Drake do what he does really well, which is help move the chains and whatnot. So I felt like Penix overall looked more comfortable operating this offense than he had in the 3 previous weeks, and certainly compared to last week. How much of that is on just Penix, natural development? How much of that is on Zach Robinson's, move from the sideline or move from the boot to the sideline? I think all of those factors and variables go into it. And so overall, I think you saw one of the better games, if not the best game that Michael Penix has played in his short NFL career.
Yeah, Jarvis, it really looked like from the opening drive, although it did net 3 points, but you just saw things even in that opening drive that's where Michael Penix just felt like Michael Penix from the last 3 games of 2024. And that's kind of what you want to see. Did it make you feel like, especially as the game progressed and we continue to see the productivity, the production from Michael Penix Jr., did it make you feel like, okay, I'm starting to see the MPX from those last 3 games last season that made me also know why Terry Fontenot and Raheem Morris took a chance on this guy as your future franchise QB?
You know what they say, when you're at home, you're able to put your feet up on the couch, right? You're able to get comfortable. And I thought I saw that from Michael Penix Jr. because here's the thing, especially when they would get to the line of scrimmage with probably about 16 seconds or 12 or 13 seconds before they get a penalty on the play clock, and you just saw the motions, the pre-snap stuff, and you just saw that, hey, they got a good understanding of what the defense was going to give them post-snap. And I think that was a big factor into why we saw him that level of comfort in his play on Sunday. Another thing that I feel like that was a little bit of a wrinkle, so to speak, a lot of times when you start throwing different formations and lining people up in different spots, that gets the defensive thinking too as well. That's another thing that kind of throws the defense off, right? We saw Bijan probably line up in the slot. Now, I don't know the exact numbers on this. Him lining up in the slot, I feel like we saw that a lot more than especially, I know for sure this year. Him lining up out in the slot, and you having Charlie Warner lining up to offset to the side of offset Michael Penix Jr. in that shotgun formation. I was just like, oh, that's very interesting. So a lot of those eyeballs are going to start to go where he goes because Bijan Robinson is the foundation of this offense. So when you start to see him line up in the slot, you start to get safety, start looking this way. Okay, are they trying to go for the screen? Then you get them to guessing. Once you start getting to guessing, that's when it's going to open up for everyone else. So that's why I feel like Bijan was able to get off in the passing game and in the run game as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Jarvis. When I'm watching the game yesterday, I'm feeling like, okay, Joe Wood Jr., you actually have to think. This isn't an obvious thing what Zach Robinson is doing or about to do. And I think, you make a great point about that boding well because there were
He did it in the pistol too, T. You know what I'm saying?
That's where I was going to go to.
They were so obvious in the pistol, so he did it in that as well. So
right, and so I think that is something that we talked about before. Where is sort of that evolution? You have the type of offense, you have the weapons to be able to do a whole lot of things and be able to disguise on offense, if you will. But yet, that's not really what we saw the first couple of weeks. I felt like we saw. I know we talk about multiples a lot more on defense, but I felt like we saw some multiples in a good way on offense yesterday, and you just hope that that's what you continue to see. But Tori, speaking of Michael Penix Jr. and the Falcons not having the day they had without what he did, Bijan, again, one of only 2 players the last decade, 250 rushing yards, 250 receiving yards in his team's first 4 games. I mean, crazy numbers. But what really kind of stood out to me was the fact that when I look at Bijan having that kind of day, I think about the complementary football that you want to see on offense. And I felt like his performance was really maybe that best example of the complementary football within the offensive side of the ball that you hope to see from this offense more consistently.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. And I'll add to the fact that this offense operates differently if you don't have Bijan Robinson in it. He is the engine that makes this offense go. When you need something to happen, you put the ball in Bijan Robinson's hands. And I think even Michael Penix said last night when we're talking to him after the game and the question is brought up, hey, what's it feel like to be able to hand the ball off to Bijan? And he's just like, I mean, anytime he touches the ball, I feel like we're in a good spot. Like, because Bijan is just he's a player that he just makes things happen that not every player can work to or even attain. I think sometimes, like, he truly is a very special entity. And what's really funny is, I know everybody's talking about his 69-yard catch and run, and everybody's talking about the 50-yard catch and run from week 1. But to me, what was so indicative of Bijan Robinson, the player, was that touchdown run where he is ping-ponging his way, making people miss.
Yes. Spinning
and flipping and doing all the different things that Bijan Robinson does to get in the end zone. And I actually found what was really interesting is he now has generated 174 yards after forcing a missed tackle, which is the second most in the NFL as of last night. And I think that is so indicative, that moment of that run specifically is so indicative of who Bijan Robinson is and why he's so special as a runner, as a playmaker. And I mean, you have to give credit where credit is due to Bijan Robinson, because I do think that he is trending towards and I'm going to do some more research on this like later down the road as we continue to get more stats about Bijan. But if he continues down this road, he could be doing things from a statistical standpoint that has never been done in the league before. That's how crazy what he's doing is. And we're only 4 games into this. So again, you cannot undersell how important Bijan Robinson is to this offense. Even when things are not going well, Bijan is the one that you look to be like, all right, get us going.
Yeah. You know how, Tori, when we talk about, say, that mobile QB and we talk about like maybe a Jaden Daniels or a Jalen Hurts, but then we go back a generation and we talk about Michael Vick, but then we go back a generation and we talk about Randall Cunningham. I kind of feel like that's where we are with Bijan Robinson. Like, you might go back a generation and you may talk about LaDainian Tomlinson. You go back and you make the generation a little bit more and you talk about Marshall Faulk. And I'm thinking Marshall Faulk had some cray numbers back in the day with The Greatest Show on Turf, right? But then you fast forward that, and now in a pass happier league, if you will, like, I agree with you. I mean, I feel like Bijan Robinson can have some video game type numbers before it's all said and done. And another thing you mentioned that you don't often hear in a sentence about a running back is playmaker. When I think playmaker, obviously first thought comes to Michael Irvin, but you often think about a quarterback or a wide receiver. But yeah, the things that Bijan Robinson is doing, he has to be in that conversation of that level of playmaker as well. And the funny thing is, we're only talking about a guy who's a couple seasons into his career and a couple games in, and yet he's in that conversation if you press it forward with a Saquon Barkley, and rightfully so. But yeah, Aaron, you look at what Michael Penix Jr. did yesterday, obviously great things there, but you don't get that done. And I called out my favorite play post-game yesterday with that Bijan Robinson touchdown, because like you said, it was like he was moving through like a ping pong type of situation, or was it pinball? Pinball was what my mind went to. But Aaron, when you think about his performance, I think the most important or impressive part is that he was your shining example of what it looks like when you got your pass game and your run game going pretty well in the same game.
Yeah, I feel like, we could just kind of describe what Bijan brings to the table as, a guy that walks on water. It's just like, that's kind of what he does.
Blue magic.
Yeah.
Blue magic.
Yeah.
Blue magic.
There you go, T. There you go. So I mean, like, I think that pretty much kind of summarizes it for what Bijan brings to the table.
See, Jarvis, I did my homework.
Oh, you did? Oh, nice.
Yes. So maybe I think I now know why Bijan is blue magic.
Yeah. I think one of the things that was so cool for me is to, how we talked about, Bijan being the guy to kind of get everybody tired and all that stuff. And after they run around chasing him and missing on the first, that's the one thing that is so amazing. Can I just make this point? That's the one thing that I feel like is just so amazing about this cat. Like, the first guy does not have a chance. If he has the ball in his hands and the quarterback is out the way, like, that first guy doesn't have a chance to tackle him. Like, it's just so amazing. Like, whether it be from a juking standpoint or if a guy just trying to reach out and try to grab him and knock the ball out, it's like none of that stuff is just like it's not going to work. He just that first guy is almost guaranteed to miss him. But I think that the cool thing that about the game yesterday was him doing his due, right? Like being Blue Magic, walking on water, turning 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread and feeding 5,000 people, like 10,000 people, like all that stuff. That was dope as all get out to watch. But the part that I love about it the most was when Tyler Algier came into the play. And it was one of those moments where, we're about to run this clock out and get this field goal. And there ain't nothing you can do about it. And dudes were just, that touchdown run by Tyler Algier was just the epiphany of we tied, boss.
That was also like such a funny moment too, where I was watching that play because they were on the end zone that was closest to the rest box, and I'm watching that play, and I literally said, "Oh no!" Like because I thought Charlie Warner didn't really get like a body on that guy, and I was like, "Oh dang!" Like this is about to be a tackle for a loss, and then all of a sudden it went from "Oh no" to "Oh." Okay. Like he's in the end zone. It was a very one of those plays that it could have been detrimental, but it ended up being incredibly fortuitous for Tyler Algier and the Falcons at that point in time. And at that time, it was something they needed in that point of the game.
Sure.
Yeah. That 1-2 combination of Bijan and Tyler Algier is, I said it all throughout last year. It's like no notes. Like y'all, everything that's wrong with the Falcons offense has to do with the other 9 guys on the field at any given time. Because whenever those 2 guys are on the field, it's just like, okay, like you're doing your job. And it's like, I'm just looking at the other 9 guys. I'm like, you guys need to step it up because you're letting these 2 guys down.
Yeah.
And I think you see those types of plays, including those touchdown runs where it's just like, okay, well, if you need Tyler Algier, if you need Bijan to make, 2 or 3 guys miss, they're going to do it. Even when guys aren't blocking well or missing blocks and all that stuff. So it's one of those things where, I don't know how much longer the Falcons are going to have this 1-2 punch, given that Tyler Algier is a free agent after this year. But every week I just appreciate it more that whatever time we have left with these 2 guys on the same roster is well appreciated here, at least in the Aaron Freeman household.
And Tori, just to think that, funny thing is, this was kind of a reverse of what we saw in the first 3 games on the ground. The Falcons were really racking up yards in those games, but didn't really pay off in scores. This week, not necessarily as potent in terms of the run game, only 3.7 yards a carry. The Falcons ran it, no big deal, because they actually scored this time. So I don't know. It's very interesting. While it's good to continue to gain, and we want to see that game where they gain on the ground and they actually produce scores. But I thought also effective for their run game yesterday was the fact that they were able to get in and punch it into the end zone.
Yeah, well, I think that was just the turning point overall for this offense. And it was something that we have. I mean, heck, like we talked about it last week. They went 8 quarters between Minnesota and Carolina, having only scored 1 touchdown, never even gotten the red zone against Carolina. And I honestly feel like they were much better when they got in the red zone or even got inside the 30 of being better on first and second down and actually like producing some really good moments, getting guys out in space. That was something that I thought, like looking back, that I appreciated the operation within the red zone. When things get really, really tight, it's easier for guys to kind of take away the run. But but the Falcons were able to kind of spread things out, get guys in space to make things happen. Something else that I thought was like really kind of the complement to the run game was the fact that the deep ball was working. Like this was a prime example of when you have the deep ball and when it's going, when Michael Penix is going, it opens things up in the run and it makes you have to respect both things and, give credit, I think, where credit is due to this offensive line as well, because this is really the first time I felt like there was a complement between their run blocking and their pass blocking. Because this, you saw it in the deep downfield throws. There are a lot of times over the first 3 games of the season where the pressure was on Michael Penix quickly, like very
Mhm.
quick. He didn't have a lot of time in the pocket. It was a little bit dirty. And so he's having to kind of adjust, and you're seeing kind of these shorter throws or the lack of accuracy downfield. And, guys weren't even able to get to the top of their routes for some of these deep shots to manifest. Well, that wasn't the case against the Washington Commanders. There were a lot of clean pockets that Michael Penix was working out of throughout the entirety of that game yesterday. So you have to, again, it's like the same for this offense to be as good as it wants to be. There has to be that balance, and it does start up front. You have to give credit where credit is due. I think to the offensive line for what they did both in pass blocking and in run blocking.
And two, just before Aaron and Jarvis wrap us up, Tori, it's always a great thing when we're having a conversation where we're not talking about the O-line. Like, we're not calling out names. We're not talking about pre-snap infractions. So, yeah, good call, Tori. Aaron?
Yeah, I think when you look at a stat like yards per carry, it always doesn't measure efficiency. It's, to me, more of a stat that measures sort of your explosiveness, because it can be heavily skewed by either a negative run or a really long run in a major way. And so what I think the Falcons run game was that isn't reflected when you look at, the 3.7 yards per carry, is that their running game was really efficient. And a lot of their, they did have some negative run plays in this game, which I think skewed that number down. And then late in the game, when they're just kind of bleeding clock, they're not running as effectively in the fourth quarter as they were running earlier in the game. And so that also brings the number down. So I do feel like the Falcons run game was probably significantly better than maybe what those box score stats show at face value from Sunday. So like, I do think for the most part, the run game is in a good place as we sit here today. So like, I just think like some of those numbers aren't necessarily, we talked about it last week with like, the 30 points given up on defense wasn't all on the defense. And it's like some of those numbers with the run game isn't all on, like the run game wasn't as effective, like stats lie sometimes is basically what I'm getting at.
Yeah, that's fair.
Stats for losers, free?
I don't know if I'll go that far. Raheem takes it a little bit to the extreme, but they can be manipulated a little bit.
But I think one of the biggest things that we talked about coming into the season was Caleb McGarry going down there and what Elijah Wilkinson will look like in that role. I didn't call Elijah Will like, God dog, at 71, what you doing? Like I said, when you're not being talked about, offensive line is a position that is doing well. Like the only time people get upset is when they miss blocks, and people see that tackle spot a lot more than any other position on the offensive line. So I think Elijah Wilkinson has been fitting in nicely. He's been solid, and and I feel like he's been getting better every game, because the first game was it was a little rough. He was trying to figure it out, had procedural penalties, and I feel like every game he's been kind of settling in, and that's what you like to see from a veteran guy who's been around the league.
Yeah, speaking of solid, the defense was at least in one phase, but a little shaky in the other. We'll take that under further review. This episode of our Falcons Squad Show is brought to you by Prize Picks. Every day we make decisions, but on Prize Picks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss the excitement of the football season with Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Playing Prize Picks is definitely fun, simple, and a simple way to add more excitement to football. You just pick more or less on player projections like Josh Allen's passing yards or Saquon Barkley rushing for a touchdown, or in the case of Bijan Robinson, you can actually do it on both ends. What might his receiving yards be? What might his rush yards be? And you're in the game. And don't forget, of course, he knows how to punch that ball and get it into the end zone. Now, like we said, Prize Picks is very quick. You can make your lineup in under a minute, and they just added a feature called Stacks. So if you want to ride with a player, you can select their pass yards, Bijan, rush yards, Bijan again, touchdowns, Bijan one more time, all in one lineup. It's also fun to follow other players in the app and copy their lineups with one click. And the new injury reboot feature, if your player leaves early, like unfortunately Darnell Mooney did yesterday, and doesn't return, it actually won't count against you. Of course, we are hoping nothing but good things for him in his dealing with his hamstring injury. But that said, download the Prize Picks app today and use code Locked On NFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code Locked On NFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It is good to be right. This episode of our Falcons Squad Show is also brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5 Hour Energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee plus 5 vitamins, B vitamins, and nutrients with 0 sugar and 0 crashes. What I love most is how portable they are. Big taste, tiny shot. You can take it anywhere and get that boost when you need it. And also, you got to love all of their flavors. I mean, grape, that's kind of a personal favorite of mine. Anything kind of in that grape space. But cherry's a good look. Mango, low key, good look as well. But because it's a refreshing pick me up that gets you through a busy day, like sometimes we get that afternoon crash. And most importantly, I can tell you from personal experience, there is no crash once you take 5 Hour Energy. So enough with boring, flavorful, or flavorless rather caffeine. It's time to get your caffeine a flavorful upgrade with 5 Hour Energy shots. Get the favorites you love or be bold and try something new in store and online at www.5hourenergy.com or Amazon today. So the Falcons defense held the Commanders scoreless in the first quarter, just 6 points in the third. And yes, Washington did score the 10 points in the second quarter, but Kaden Ellis and Leonard Floyd combined for a sack in the quarter. So now Ellis has recorded at least a half sack in 6 of his last 10 games, tied for most by a linebacker since week 13 last season. So for you, Aaron, do you feel like Ellis is building another, and I put this in quotes, quietly one of the best linebackers in football type campaign so far this season?
Yeah, I think, Kaden Ellis will continue to fly under the radar, as we discussed many times over the offseason, until the Falcons start winning. And obviously the Falcons won yesterday. And so we're going to be a little louder about Kaden Ellis's performances because of that. But obviously we won't be able to be as loud as I think we want to be in as the rest of the season plays off, unless the Falcons can win more games. But it does feel like you're still seeing the impact plays from Kaden Ellis as a pass rusher. The Falcons use their penny front quite a bit on Sunday, where they actually have Kaden Ellis drop down and basically function as an edge rusher, and have Divine Diablo as the only off-ball linebacker. And you saw him make a number of plays coming off the edge, coming off the backside, making some TFLs and whatnot. And so, that versatility that Kaden Ellis has, you saw a guy on the opposite side of the field in Frankie Louvu, who had a similar season as Kaden Ellis did last year. But Frankie Louvu got a lot of love for that because Washington's success, making it all the way to the NFC Championship game, while Kaden Ellis flies under the radar, basically doing all the same things that Frankie Louvu was doing, if not better than Frankie Louvu, who is a good football player. But those are kind of the things that we just need to see Kaden Ellis continue to do the things that he's been doing, as you just broke down, T, basically since last year. And if he can continue to do those things and the Falcons can continue to win, he'll get more recognition and we won't have to be as quiet about how good Kaden Ellis has been for the Falcons these last couple of seasons.
Indeed, Jarvis. And what about for you as far as Ellis just being that low-key guy who just keeps on making the campaign for, hey, I am one of the best at my position?
Yeah, I think Ellis should blame James for all his troubles and
you can't let him go.
Acknowledgement of his skill set and being able to put him in a position to be a good football player. It's amazing. It's amazing, T, how that works. When you put guys in position to do what he does best, you can rush the passer. You don't mind beating up on tackles? Oh, man, let me go ahead and get you down into this. The team going 12 personnel. Here's what we're going to do. You know, we're going to shift you down there from that off-ball linebacker. We're going to have Zach slide down over that guard. You know what I'm saying? And we're going to have you slide over the tackle. So we're going to look like a nice 5-man front, a little bare front up there. We're like, whoa, you can do that? Man, that's amazing. Oh, my goodness. What'd you say, T? A half a sack in like the last last games or whatever that stat was?
Yeah, 6 out of the
That was
last
a great
10,
stat,
yeah.
by the way. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. You know, think outside the box. And they ain't really thinking outside the box. That's just normal stuff. What good coaches do. Good coaches put guys in position to succeed. I talked about that, you know, right after the game and Zach Robinson, what he was doing. And I feel like, you know, Jeff Olbrich is doing the exact same thing. And it's a beautiful thing to watch. Like to see Kaden just go out there. I called him Kato yesterday. I don't know how y'all feel about that. Kato, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. You know, it might may or may not stink a little bit, but you know, I like calling him Kato. I like to give people nicknames. That's just my
Yes, you
passion.
do.
So Kato, you know, he looked so he got away with a little face mask, by the way. You know what I'm saying? But hey, you know, referees missed up,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? But just the way he plays football when he's going downhill, I just love watching that cat operate. And for him and Divine Diablo to be paired off playing next to each other, that is like the perfect marriage because like where Kato is and his skill set and how he matches up with folks, and then Divine just coming in look like a transformer back there playing off-ball linebacker and being able to rush and also run with one of the best tight ends who ever played the game. You know, like it's just beautiful thing to watch, and I think that we should show Ellis more love, and I think that, you know, James, you know, kind of altered that, you know, by what he was doing with 55 last year.
Yeah. And Tori, I got to give credit for one of our friends over at the Falcons because that cool stat came from you guys. And I said, man, I love that because to me, that shows consistency, right? Mm-hmm. If you take a sample size of 10 games and you're having that type of impact statistically, although we know a lot of his impact is even outside of the stats, I think that that's just a powerful thing. But yeah, I think Kaden Ellis is still kind of that guy who's quietly kind of building his reputation and kind of building his resume. And it's just showing it's just paying dividends for the Falcons.
Yeah, I think that Jarvis hit a very good point about Divine Diablo's role within Kaden Ellis's own success. I think within the last few games specifically, I think there's been a lot of that they've done. It's funny because going into the season, and I felt this way the first couple of games of the seasons going in, I felt like Kaden Ellis was very quiet and wasn't necessarily having the big flashy plays that we had seen him have, like rushing the passer. But it was because what they were doing with Divine Diablo and some of the blitzes that they had that they were working with for him specifically. Mm-hmm. And it was funny because I even made mention a couple of weeks ago where I was like, I thought that we were going to be talking about the creativity of what you can do with Kaden Ellis, but I actually feel like someone who the versatility that we haven't talked about enough is Divine Diablo. Yeah. But I think that ultimately means that you can ebb and flow between the two of them. And that's something that I don't think last year, and this is nothing against Nate Landman or anything like that. But I do think because of the way Nate Landman plays, he's a more traditional, like, thumper of a inside linebacker. Nothing wrong with that. It just I don't know how much it complements what Kaden Ellis does, because you did struggle at times to drop him into coverage if you were sending Kaden. Now you don't really have that issue because Divine Diablo you saw it. He should have had a pick like the other day because he's standing in the middle of this lane and has his big old arms up, and he's so long and lanky and tall. He looks like it's funny because when Divine Diablo stands beside Leonard Floyd, they have a very similar look and build to them. And I think that it only helps Kaden Ellis with some of these pieces that they have around him. Yeah. And it may mean that his pass rush opportunities aren't as plentiful as what they were last year. But I think that just means that there's more of the pie to kind of share amongst the group. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's a really, really good thing for this Atlanta offense or defense. And I'll say too, I think that Kaden Ellis is if James Pierce Jr. is an edge rusher that has the mechanics and the look of everything that Jeff Ulbrich is wanting. I think Kaden Ellis has the makeup and the core drive and the passion and the way he plays that Jeff Ulbrich is just like, oh, I love being able to coach Kaden Ellis, like as a former linebacker himself. So I think it's just kind of like a match made in heaven right now for Kaden Ellis.
Yeah. Yeah. And you got to love that, Aaron. Like we talk about complimentary, right? And complimentary has so many different meanings, if you will, Jarvis. And complimentary has so many different meanings when it comes to football. One of the things I thought about as Tori was talking is a compliment of the player to the coach and the player to the scheme. And it seems like you've got that with Kaden Ellis. And to your point, Tori, even looking at Divine Diablo and how he's being able to be used there as well, guys.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been fascinating to watch Diablo these first 4 games of the season, because I think a lot of people didn't really know what the Falcons were getting in him. They didn't really know who this guy was that was the first free agent signing of the offseason. And I think Tori kind of nailed it, where you have a guy that brings all the skill set that you're looking for in the linebacker, whether it's the pass rushing ability, the run defense, or the coverage ability. And that versatility allows you to use Kaden Ellis and his versatility in specific ways that I think really does complement each other, as Tori just broke down.
Yeah. And let me ask you this, Aaron, when you look at, because talking about Ellis and talking about sort of that quiet buildup, if you will, Zach Harrison finished the game with a tackle and a sack, 2.5 sacks now on the season. And just what do you think about the uptick in his play so far this season?
I think Zach Harrison's right on schedule when it comes to his production. Now it's year 3 for him. It typically takes defensive linemen until their 3rd year to kind of figure it out, because, they get into the league and they're just like, okay, well, I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm just going to try to run around or run through guys. And it sometimes works if you have the type of athleticism that allows you to do that. And Zach Harrison is one of those guys. But then year 2, you start to figure it out. And you're like, okay, well, this guy I can run through, or this guy I can run around, but maybe not this other guy. And you still slowly start to put it together. And then year 3 is like when it all clicks into place for these guys. And I think with Zach Harrison, the thing that he brings to the table not only is his pass rushing ability, given his length in the Falcons, being able to utilize him where his length becomes a major mismatch for guards on the interior when the Falcons kick him inside, but you also have that versatility that he can also use that power and that length against tackles and whatnot. And so you have this player that has, 3-down versatility, that can be a disruptive player against the run, can hold up against double teams, can rush the quarterback on 3rd downs from a variety of spots. And, piggybacking on the conversation we just had about the linebackers' versatility, having a piece like that you can kind of just move around the defensive line and just kind of figure out, oh, well, we know Zach Harrison's going to do his job, whatever we're asking him to do. And then we just got to figure out the other 3 or however many guys elsewhere on the defensive line. I think really adds a lot of value. And you're seeing that, reflect on not only just from, his performance on the field, but you're also seeing it reflected on the stat sheet.
Yeah. What about for you, Jarvis, with Zach Harrison and his performance so far?
He's one of my favorite players on this defense. I felt like he was the guy that was going to benefit the most from Jeff Ulbrich's system, because what you're going to get from Jeff is you're going to get consistency. You're going to get a role clarity. Like that's so important when you have another defensive coordinator coming into the fold. And I think that when you have that and the player understands it and feels it and he started being productive from it, that's when you get full buy-in. And when you have guys, especially up front, you have that full buy-in, regardless of rotations, and they oddly tell them, hey, man, it's time for you to get out and all that stuff. They don't care about that, because guess what? Those guys are being productive. They understand exactly what they're doing when they do go into the game, and they understand, like, in this particular moment, I know exactly what coach wants from me, and that's for me to be able to go out there and make a play. And I think that he's out there doing that, and yeah, I'm just excited to see how Zach finishes the end of the season. I don't want to go too far down the road, but I really like what I'm seeing from him, and he's just really getting comfortable as in his role. And as we talk about, Michael Penix Jr. being comfortable at home and understanding how he needed to play coming into this game. And when young guys start to figure that out, man, just get your popcorn ready because these guys will start flourishing even more.
And for you, Tori, when you kind of look at Zach and kind of that progression this year and kind of the build up to it, what do you think about where he's blossomed to so far this season?
Yeah, I actually think that he is right on track, if not ahead of schedule from where I thought he would be at this point in time in this particular season for him, because you think back to his, rookie year, he is more of an edge player. And then they make the decision last year. They're moving him inside. He puts on all that weight. He's learning new techniques. He's having new expectations for what his role is. And then now this year, it's like, okay, like, to Jarvis's point, I think that the bringing in of Jeff Ulbrich is very important for someone like a Zach Harrison. And I say that because Jeff Ulbrich is a type of coach that is not going to the way he operates is that he doesn't want to get to game day and be like, oh, we're scheming up all this stuff. And, guys are having to make decisions as to how, no. Like, everything's pretty much in the can when they go into a Sunday, and it's just about making plays. It's doing what you are supposed to do. It's winning your one-on-one. It's like, and I think that is where someone like Zach Harrison, when he's had so many adjustments that he's needed to make, he's had so many defensive coordinators that he's had to play under. I mean, same with a lot of guys on this defense, let's be real. But when it happens so early in your career, it's really difficult for you to find any type of footing at all, especially when you're kind of just moving in and out and around and, you don't really know. Some guy's asking you to do one thing, another coordinator's asking you to do something else. Like, the way that Jeff Ulbrich can simplify things for this group that has had so many different voices over 3-4 years.
Yeah.
Zach Harrison is someone who I think benefits the most from that, just by nature of what his career has looked like here in Atlanta. And I think that I think this is only the start of what Zach Harrison's role within this defense could be. Same with Brandon Dorless, same with Rukaroro. Like this, I truly believe that the way that this coaching staff has kind of laid out who they are, what they are, and what they're about, and what each person's role is, like, that's very important to what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, the fact that we're talking about the evolution of these players and seeing some of the things that we knew that they were capable of doing, even and I know it's early returns, but even like what Xavier Watts was able to do just in picking off Marcus Mariota, first time that it's been done since 2016, where he had his second pick of the season this early in the season. Some good stuff that we saw from the defense yesterday. Now, special teams, not so special. Once again, we'll unpack that in next up. This episode of our Falcons Squad Show is brought to you by Rougiette. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougiette Go Long. If you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougiette Go Long. That's exactly where Rougiette Go Long comes in, because it's just not another ED pill. It's a total game changer for confidence. Now, Go Long combines 2 doctor-trusted medications in one dual-action formula, so you can get hard and go the distance. The effects can last up to 36 hours. That's confidence all day, all night, and even into the next day. The process is simple. Connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online, and if prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly right to your door. If prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly to your door. So ready to level up your confidence in the bedroom? Head to RUGIET.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $15 off your first order. That's RUGIET.com, promo code LOCKEDONNFL. Make sure to use our code so they know we sent you. So Jarvis, the special teams. It was kind of that up and down day where we saw some good things, obviously excited about the fact that, hey, Parker Romo made his kicks, made all of his point afters. this is good stuff, right? And there were opportunities as well where we saw Bradley Pinion knock one inside the 20. All good. But I know there were some things that you saw on special teams that made you feel like it was an up and down performance in game, just like it's been an up and down performance all season. So what was concerning or most concerning for you for Marquise Williams' group, and what do you really need to kind of see them do in terms of a reset so that they're ready when the Buffalo Bills come to town?
I want to see Jamal Agnew get settled in. All right, I know it was his first game, coming off the injury, coming off an injury, and you could tell, he's still trying to, find his way through or weave his way through that type of process. So I feel hopefully these coming off this bye week and the week leading up to the Buffalo Bills. I feel like, there'll be some improvement from return. We'll have some consistency there, and hopefully he can stay healthy for the remainder of the season. So that was my big thing. And then one thing that I pointed out right after the game was that guys just being aware of what's going on the field. Like when you have D'Angelo Malone, it was just so weird for me to see the ball getting ready to hit the ground, and he just like, and no one was helping him out, right? Everybody was people just standing around like, somebody say something, man. Peter, I don't know what they call it in the NFL, but I know when we were in college, Peter, get out the doggone way. The ball's about to hit the ground. If it touches you, that means it's live, and they can't advance it, but that means it's going to be a turnover. Like, you don't want that. Like that. Those are the type of things that can ultimately change the narrative of a game, change the outcome of a game. Yeah. So you don't want something like that to linger in these next couple of weeks. So I'm sure that Marquise Williams, once they watch that film and go, and I'm sure they're gonna go through it thoroughly, and that's gonna be something that he emphasizes. I can see him now, channeling his inner Keith Armstrong. All right, D'Angelo, I need you to go ahead and yell out Peter, man. Y'all help DBO out. Don't be standing around. Y'all say something, do something, help your teammate out. He out there lost out there, So, but I tried to channel.
You just Keith Armstrong channel.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't see Marquise yelling like that. But yeah, you get my point. Marquise, go and get those boys right, so you can continue to try to make this unit what we're used to seeing, because we're used to seeing this being one of the more consistent units, and it seemed like Parker Romo trying to cheer back in that direction, and we just need that coverage to kind of get where it needs to be.
Yeah, and Tori, good to see Jamal Agnew back and healthy. I'm sure that will help as far as the consistency in the return game, but ultimately speaking, and again, we are not having a conversation about a kicker this week melting down, so it's a good look too. But I think it may be some of it may be more predicated on if you could just see some of the consistency in how special team shows up against the opponent's special team.
Yeah, I think that something that Raheem Morris talks about all the time is like this emotional roller coaster. Yeah. And I feel like that is something that we've been on with this offense, but also it's something that we've been on with this special teams unit, that it's kind of going a bit like this, Parker Romo, 5 for 5 against Minnesota, 0 for 2 against Carolina. And then it's like, okay, Natrone Brooks has a really great return. And then it's like, boom, the ball is bounced off of a Falcons player, and you don't know who's like it. That moment could have changed the game entirely. So
completely, yeah.
There are just these moments of like really high highs, but the lows are pretty low. So it's like, just like get back to even, like just kind of become more of a trusted group that has been able to do some really big things for the Falcons in the last couple of years. Like getting back to like an equilibrium is what I think, where it doesn't have to be fantastic. It doesn't have to be great. It doesn't have to be world changing, but just adding a bit more trust and consistency within what the unit is doing from a holistic standpoint is a good goal to have coming out of this bye week.
Yeah. And for you, Aaron, when you kind of look at special teams and you see the up, the down, kind of can't get right situation with them, what do you want to see in terms of Marquise Williams getting his special teams unit to understand, like, hey, we just saw the offense humming, right? So you had a gangbuster game from the offense in week 4. And then in week 2, you see the defense humming. So they had their gangbusters game. Where's that special teams all together? Where's that game for them? Like, how does he get them to know, hey, this is what we need to do so that the third phase finally catches up?
Yeah, I think Tori nailed it. You just want to get more consistency. I think the special teams unit right now, like we were talking about the offense a week ago, is a work in progress. I mean, technically the offense remains a work in progress. It's just they made a lot of progress this past week. And so you're hoping to see something similar for this special teams unit the next time the Falcons are on the field on Monday Night Football against the Bills in 2 weeks. And so I think, it's just when it comes to like specifics, you're just going to have to get the kicking game on point, the punting game on point, the coverage units on point, the return game on point, so there's a lot of different variables that go into getting a more consistent, output from this special teams unit. But if they're able to make some incremental improvements over time, then eventually, that endpoint will be where that special teams unit, where we want it to be in terms of being that consistently, hopefully good unit week in and week out. And so the Falcons can consistently have that unit help them, win that third phase of the game, which will make a difference when, maybe one of the first 2 phases in offense and defense doesn't necessarily hold up their end of the bargain. You have special teams to be able to make some of those plays, control field position, all that stuff that can help you make the difference in winning these close games that we see every single Sunday and whatnot. And, I think it's just going to be a work in progress, and we'll just sort of see how it all plays out.
Yeah. And Jarvis, I think too, you want to see more from Parker Romo, but and more of the good. But I do think he, at least by having a day like he had yesterday, and granted, you're not required to have 5 field goals go through when touchdowns are happening, which is a good thing. But maybe he put a little bit of separation between himself and maybe the competition or the conversation about, oh, wait a minute, the Falcons still don't have that guy. Maybe he at least quieted that conversation a little bit.
All I ask is just you just raise the floor, like Tori talked about, like consistency, right? Like stop operating it in extremes. Either I'm gonna suck or I'm gonna be amazing. Like, nah, give me that consistency, bro. Like I need, if it's 40 and in, you automatic, and you might miss 50 plus every now and then. Like I want that consistency. Like, we've been spoiled, when it comes to kickers in Atlanta history, right? From Matt Bryant, Young Way Cool, like Morton Anderson, like we've been spoiled. Like, you hear me? So I think that, and I'm not saying that he has to be that. Parker Romo doesn't have to be that, but continue to raise the floor. Continues to raise that floor, so we're not looking at, because I know I got a bad feeling in my stomach. It wasn't as bad as it was against Carolina, but it was just like, man, okay, all right, here we go. Is he gonna hit it or not? Is it gonna be like my first tee off on hole number 1? You know what I'm saying? That bag gonna go start off straight and just swing left, like I just ran up in the sky and doggone got the ball and threw it to the right side of that thing. So for me, I feel like, it's about raising the floor, making sure that you're going out there doing what you're supposed to do, and there's a such thing as a good miss, right? Like, you're like, man, I just barely missed it. Like, I had, my technique was down, everything was right, the snap was right, the holder got everything right. I just barely missed it. Like, we can't have those bad misses. And I feel like is steady on that track. So yeah, I wanted to keep it that way for the next couple of weeks.
Indeed.
Yeah, I don't have really anything to add outside of that. Like, I really don't. Like, that's it's very straightforward when it comes to the special teams units. Everything that we said, it's just getting back to equilibrium.
Yeah, just getting back to center, something where at least if you do have a game, should it be close with the Buffalo Bills, you'd like to think that there's confidence that, hey, Parker Romo can kick the Falcons into a win. But speaking of wins, W's in the chat means game ball giveaway. So we're going to talk about that and the bye week in the look ahead. This episode of our Falcons Squad Show is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here in full swing, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Now, you got to love FanDuel because it gives you so many ways to play. You can build a parlay, you can try player props, and you can even follow live lines during games. And it makes it football watching even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action, whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats. FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Again, you can build parlays, you can try player props, and you can even follow the live lines during games. There are 2 of those games tonight to end week 4 of the NFL season. So, hey, make it fun. Make it exciting where you got a little something riding on the action. So visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. This is so exciting, Tori, when we have the opportunity to give away game balls, because that means the Falcons won a game 34-27 over the Washington Commanders Sunday to pull themselves to 500. So for you, give me your game ball on offense, defense, special teams, coaching staff. If you have them, you don't have to have one for everyone, but you can have 4 if you want.
Yeah, so my game ball actually goes to like an entity of like Michael Penix Jr. and Zach Robinson. Like, I think that the fact that the Falcons, like when the Falcons as an offense needed a response from the Carolina game, like that was obvious. They needed one. I think the fact that so many guys in the locker room, Michael Penix, Bijan Robinson, Drake London, talked about the move from Zach Robinson to go from the coaching box down to the sideline and how they actually did feel like it changed the energy and connectivity of the offensive unit on the sidelines, like during the game. I think that just is something that I look at and I'm like, okay, they pinpointed a problem that they had in communication. They made a change. And the change works. Now, does that mean that the Falcons offense is going to look like what it looked like this Sunday every single week? No. But I think for just the context of what last week was, comparatively speaking to this week, and how much better the offensive operation was, I think you have to kind of give a shared game ball to Zach Robinson, to Michael Penix Jr., to honestly hearing the criticism, understanding the criticism, kind of just taking all of that on their shoulders throughout the week and transforming that into what we know this offense has the capabilities to be. Again, this is a 1-week thing. I don't know if it's going to be like this every single week. You hope it is. You hope that they have a change for the better. But I think for right now, like those are the 2 individuals that I think like had the most riding on this performance and ended up showing up when the moment mattered.
Indeed. And Aaron, for you, game balls, you can give them on offense, defense, special teams, coaching staff, or all of the above.
Yeah, I'll give mine on offense. I'll give it to Bijan. I mean, you just watch a man walk on water for 60 minutes. It's just like, okay, like here's a game ball for you, Defense, I'll give it to Kaden Ellis. We gave him some love earlier in the show. I thought he was outstanding in this game. Making a number of sort of critical plays. Special teams, I'll give love for Parker Romo for a nice rebound game after a rough week 3 game against Carolina. And then for the coaching staff, I'll piggyback a little bit on what Tori was saying. I'll give Zach Robinson some love. I'm not known for giving Zach Robinson a lot of love on these various podcasts. Yeah. So, I'll give him some love. I think the offense, he was under a lot of scrutiny these first couple of games. Not for me. From everybody else, because everybody else.
Okay, not you though.
Hates the pistol. I've been going light on Zach Robinson through the 3 games so far this year, relatively speaking. I like that. I haven't been critical of him, but I just kind of want to see the offense progress and develop before we make a definitive take. And to me, coming up against this bye week, I think was a perfect sort of moment to sort of look back and reflect a little bit on the first quarter of the season. And if we get more games like we just saw this past Sunday from Zach Robinson moving forward, then I think I'll continue to be relatively light on the criticism of Zach Robinson for the remainder of the season. So we'll see how that goes on. But I think Zach Robinson did a good job this past Sunday. As Tori said, to kind of get the monkey off of his back, at least for the next couple of weeks until we get to the next game and people start complaining about the pistol or whatever they complain about.
And Jarvis, game balls for you. Offense, defense, special teams, coaching staff, all of the above, one of the above. What you got?
My first game ball goes to Grizzly, baby, Drake London. Like, man, woo, I get excited watching this man and how serious he takes blocking. I know people like, oh my God, he put up the numbers. Yeah, the numbers are great. But when I see somebody just double team slip, he was on the line of scrimmage, you know what I'm saying? He helping out Kyle, making sure Kyle got Dorian Armstrong, you know what I'm saying? Right, good right there. You good that? You got that player? All right, cool. Then he slid on up there, and that safety didn't know what hit him, T. Oh, man, it was just so beautiful. It was so beautiful. He got up in there, gave him that jumper cables, you know what I'm saying? And then he brought him to his knee, and the safety tried to act like he wasn't about to get pancake, and he kind of bounced up a little bit, and then Dre still had him up in there. He was just all in his chest. I was just like, yes, that's what I'm talking about, man. The little things, guys. So, yeah, got to give a game ball to my guy, Drizzy, Drake London. Another guy I got to give a game ball to is, his stats didn't necessarily pop like that, but he sure popped on tape. Just Jalen Walker. That guy, oh my gosh, he's just so explosive. Just the plays he was making, and you just can see the fire, you can see the intensity. He just is the guy that's just going to continue to get better. And, people, I feel like he's going to have one of those games where people are like, oh, okay, this is why, the Falcons took him and then gave up draft capital to actually go get their quote-unquote guy in James Pierce Jr. So, and they're going to wonder why the Panthers passed on him, because I feel like this guy is starting to figure it out. He's starting to get comfortable. When I talked about those young guys earlier, Zach Harrison getting comfortable, Michael Penix Jr. getting comfortable. I feel like Jalen Walker is starting to get comfortable in this system because of the role clarity coming from Jeff Ulbrich. So, yeah, those are two guys I give my game balls to.
Yeah, and I'm going to give my game ball at least for 3 3/4 of 4 quarters to the Atlanta Falcons fans, because the opening drive and part of that first quarter, and of course it's where we sit in the press box. So it's, you've got those fans from the opponent who are going to be like right there in your ear. And I was like, sure. Oh no, I know full well that the Commanders are not taking over the Benz this Sunday. Like, this is not acceptable. But then once you get that first touchdown under your belt, the fans just came alive, and that might be the best swag surf I have seen in a minute. So shout out to the fans for getting behind the Falcons when they give the Falcons a product. Yeah, that's swag surf was surfing. I got to give it to them. Thanks to our everydayers for making the Falcons Squad Show your first listen of the day. Be sure to stop by Locked On Falcons with your host, Aaron Freeman, as your second listen. And you can catch Jarvis as a frequent,
relatively speaking,
Locked On
Zach Robinson, Locked On Falcons.
Whatever, man. Check out some stories. Great work.
Sorry.
Falcons.com. Enjoy the bye week, because I think Jarvis needs a bye week right now because he's loopy and cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Very cuckoo.